Hey guys, what's up? How you doing? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sheba, and on this channel I talk about entrepreneurial tips, my journey as an entrepreneur, sharing with you experiences and things that I learned along the way, and also inspiring you as a creative, because as an entrepreneur you're a creative. So today's video is going to be a really special one, and the reason why I'm making this video about how to price your work is because I have my own fair share of experience. So for a very long time I have been underpricing, and I actually figured this out because I was actually pricing below market value. I was pricing so low that when my friends and like my fellow entrepreneur friends see my price, they're confused as to how exactly I'm pricing that low. Just for me to listen to a podcast on the future by Chris Doe. His podcast featured Michael Janda. I'm going to put the link to that podcast in the description. But before that, I would like to explain and basically just share my experience and what I've learned so far on how to price, so that you are not leaving money on the table, like you are not underpricing. And the funny part is that customers and clients actually know these things. Like, it's quite obvious when they see that you're not confident in your price, or you're pricing lower, very low, they would actually jump at it. So maybe that's the reason why you're having like rush of clients, because some people actually, when they say their prices to some clients, and then the clients are like, okay, immediately they want to know where they can send the money and all, and you start thinking and say, come on, maybe I actually should have priced a little bit higher, or all that. So I'm going to go through every single thing that I've learned so far, and this is something that I've actually told some of my friends about, and they actually really liked it. So I'm going to share it here on my channel. So for this particular video, it's going to be a practical one. I'm not just going to be telling you what to do. I'm going to actually explain it from a real life example. So I'm going to use one of my skills and one of my services that I render in my brand design agency, which is me being a brand designer. So for example, let's assume I'm a brand designer and I design logos for people, and I basically want to price my work. Like, I want to give my work a price, and also that will determine the kind of clients and customers that I'll be working with. Okay, but if you have a specific target and like you specifically know who you want to target, maybe small businesses, medium businesses, or large businesses, then that would also affect your pricing. Basically, there are three variables that are important to pricing, okay, which is one, client budget, market value, and your product cost. That's your flat rate. Okay, so as I said earlier, I've actually explained a bit of client budget. Your client budget is what your client or potential customer has to spend on such projects. So for example, I'm targeting small businesses, right, and I'm a brand designer. So small businesses definitely have a range as to how much they can afford. You don't expect to be charging 5 million naira for a logo when you are targeting a small business. So for example, you want to target Uber, right, and Uber wants to be brand. They can actually see your 5 million as something that is valuable, because they actually even understand the value of branding, and they will know that yes, what you're doing actually worth that amount. Okay, but for a small business, they definitely do not even have money to run, because most small businesses are just striving and pushing and trying to make ends meet for their business. So you coming to them with even 500,000 naira for a logo design is quite a lot. So this is why you consider your client budget when you are pricing. So it's one of the variables. The second variable is market value. Market value is basically how much the market values that particular service. So how much is logo design valued in Nigeria, for example? Let's assume we are in Nigeria. How much is logo design valued? Now, if you go to US, they actually design logos for as much as $3,000. Not even just logo, like a full brand design and everything, for like about $3,000 to $7,000. But in Nigeria, our market and our system, our economy is very bad. So you do not want to charge $3,000 in Nigeria. Like, it would not work. Okay, so you basically want to do your research and check out what the market values that particular service at. There are different ways as to which you can get all this data. I'll get to that later. Then the third variable is your flat rate or your cost of production. Now, first of all, I want to mention that this particular pricing strategy actually works for both products and services. So I'm explaining it now practically with a service rendering, a service basically, and then I would compare it to a product and basically let you guys know how you can apply it to your product. Okay, so this particular variable, the third one, is called your production cost or your flat rate. So if it's a product you are selling, then to be production cost, and if it's a service you're rendering, to be a flat rate. Okay, so your flat rate is basically determined by your hourly rate. So you're supposed to look at your skill set and look at your level of expertise and give yourself a rate per hour. Then that particular logo design that I'm designing for someone now, for example, I spend maybe 24 hours making it, which is actually unrealistic, but let's just assume that 24 hours is what I use to make the logo. So 24 hours times my hourly rate will give me my flat rate. So that's going to be my rate cost. Then if I outsource anything during the course of the project, maybe I bought some icons online, or I bought some files online, or I paid someone to help me do a particular part of the process, their own rate is going to be added to this rate cost. Okay, so everything together basically is the flat rate. But in case of a product, definitely it's going to be your production cost, the amount of money you spent producing that particular item. So these three variables is what will determine, if it's a service rendering business, right, these three variables what will determine how much you will charge your clients, right? If it's a product based business, you would want to add your profit to it. Okay, you can also decide to add profit to your, if it's a service rendering business, right, you can decide to add profit to it. Okay, so let's assume I want to start my pricing now. So the first thing I would do is do usability research and ask people how much they have spent on their logo. Like, I have, obviously you definitely have a set of people in your clique that have done logo designs in the past. If it doesn't have to be with you, it can be with you or somebody else, right? Look at them and see if they fit your target market demographics and psychographics. If they do, then ask them, okay, how much did you pay for your logo, right? There are other ways as to how you can find out how your client's budget by doing surveys online. You know, you can do surveys and, you know, plan survey out and just do it. But that might be a little bit stressful. So you can just ask people randomly how much they've paid for a logo, how much they would pay for a logo if they were to design a logo for their business. Then you can also check online and just search what do businesses in Nigeria, small businesses in Nigeria pay for logo designs, and see what comes out and use data that you find there. And then find an average between all the figures that you find. That will be your client's budget. Then your market value, also go online and search on the internet, right? How much is being charged for this particular service or this particular job. You know, usually you have such data and such documents, data available on the internet, so you can use that and also note that down. So let's assume I have searched online for my client's budget and my average summed up to 10,000 naira, right? And I checked my market value and it was 20,000 naira, for example. So that's 10,000 for my client's budget, 20,000 for my market value. Now my flat rate and product cost, let's assume I rate myself as for 200 naira per hour, and I basically use 30 hours to do the work. That means my rate will be 6,000. And then let's assume I actually paid someone to assist me with a part of the project, and I paid that person 5,000. So my rate cost would be 11,000 naira. So that means my client's budget is 10,000 naira, my market value is 20,000 naira, and my flat rate is 11,000 naira. Now, when you are setting your price, you would make sure that whatever price you are choosing should not be below your production cost or your flat rate cost basically. So as a service rendering business or somebody that renders services to people, you are most likely going to be negotiating prices with different clients. So every single client that you have would not pay the same price for the same service. Okay, so when you have these three data, like the market value, client budget, and product cost or rate cost, when you have that on ground and you start to negotiate with a client, then make sure you keep in mind that whatever price they agree with, or whatever price you guys agree with, should not be below your production cost. So now, before you meet a client, you definitely have to put a particular price on your service. So you will choose between market value, your client budget, and your flat rate cost. Definitely, you may not want to choose your flat rate cost because you want to put something higher, but depending on, oh yes, I forgot to mention that your cost of equipment is also part of your cost of production. So if you use camera to render your service, and you use laptops and you use all that, put a price on it and add it to your cost because it's part of it. If you want to upgrade later in the future, you should have resources to upgrade your equipment. So it's part of the cost. If you do not have a laptop or a camera, you will not be able to render those services, so it's part of the cost. So we also put a price tag on them depending on the value of it currently right now. Just check on the value of whatever gadget it is, or whatever item you use for production, and add it to your flat rate or your cost. So there are factors to consider when picking your final price. So there are different ways to negotiate with clients when you want to render a service to them. The first thing to do is to ask your client what their budget is. Most of the time they will not actually know, or they don't want to just say, because they feel like you're going to charge them whatever they say, and in their mind they're like, what if you can afford to do the work for a lower price? So most of the time they wouldn't say their budget like right away. So you want to like probe them into, it's not really probing them, but like you basically go through a conversation with them about how much they think the service is worth, how it will affect their business, whatever it is that they need that service for. So basically you ask them a series of questions. So after you ask them what their client's budget is, you can also ask them about past projects. So if they've done something similar in the past, you can ask them how much they spent on that project, because there's a likelihood that that's what they can afford. If they don't still tell you anything, like give you information, then you can float a price. Now that particular price you're going to, when I mean float a price, I mean you can mention your price. So that particular price that you are going to mention, I'm going to go through how you can determine that price after this negotiation part. So stick around, don't go anywhere. Yeah. So after you float a price, you study their reaction. If they're like, it's expensive, or that kind of, like there was a time it actually happened to me, and the person was like, it's actually expensive, because I actually told the person that particular service is very expensive. Then he was like, oh, he doesn't have a budget, So I told him the price, and he was like, it's very expensive, and like that's like he can't afford, So you would now basically decide to come down on the price. If their reaction is genuine, you would know. If they are trying to be negotiating, bargaining, that kind of vibe, you would know. That's why I said study their reaction. So if their reaction is like very shocking, or like they feel down, or they look sad, or not happy basically that they won't be able to afford it, then that means they actually genuinely cannot afford that price. So you can now come down on the price, but make sure that you're not going below your cost of that flat rate production, because that's the most important part of all the variables that you find. So that brings me to the factors that you should consider when floating a price or picking your price basically for that particular service. So when picking your cost, that's the amount that you're going to charge clients, you need to consider your influence and your level of experience. If you're like Chris Doe, if you guys know who Chris Doe is, if you don't, check him out. He's a brand designer. He has a brand design agency, and he also has an academy where he teaches marketing, branding, brand design, other creatives and all. Now he's highly respected. He has influence basically. I think his channel is it's called the Future Academy. That's like the school that teaches all that stuff. He has about, I think, almost over 1 million subscribers now. So basically he has influence. Like he has followers, he has people actually listen to him at all, and people know that what he does is of value. So he can bid as high as $7,000. He actually does bid that high. So yeah. So but then if you are the type that nobody knows you are just starting, don't go and bid $7,000. Nobody's gonna even look your side, because nobody even knows the like how much of your level of expertise. Like they don't know how much you can do, like the level of work if your work is actually very good. Even if you show them portfolio, you can take picture from anywhere and show anybody that you're the one that did it. So they actually need to like have that sense of being influenced by you. So if you are not on that level, then don't charge high. So basically you would charge below the market value but above your rate cost. Now if your client's budget is within that same range, but if your client's budget is now way below that, then you have to come down a bit, because if you're targeting, like for example I said, if you're targeting small businesses, you don't want to charge so much because they cannot afford it. You understand? So make sure that your everything is basically below the market value and above a flat rate, because that's if you have no influence or anything like that. But if you have influence, you can charge above the market value, because they'll still buy, they'll still pay. You get. Then if you are the type that is broke, you actually don't have money, like you don't have any money again, and that's this is only brand design you do, like you don't have money, and you have a client in your front, just accept whatever they say, because genuinely you actually need the money to eat. Do you understand? That's worst case scenario, okay? Not like it's something that would happen all the time, but if that's the situation that you are in and you are struggling to grow or struggling to grow your finance, you're struggling to fend for yourself, then you want to basically take what the client is offering. It's just so that you can have the money, like you get. Basically, but it doesn't make sense if your cost. This particular last tip that I said does not work for products. If you are making products, make sure you are gaining profits. Like if you use 5,000 naira to make a shoe, don't sell it below 5,000 naira, because you will not be able to make shoe again. But if it's a service you are rendering, it's still you that, like, you are the main product, you are the driver of the company, you understand? So you can always do it again. Do you understand my point? But if it's a product based business or a product that you're selling, do not charge below the production cost. Even if you are going to drop your profits a bit, just make sure it does not pass that production, like it should not. So now let me quickly compare it to if you are selling a product. So if you are selling a product, you're still going to do the same thing: the market value, client's budget. Instead of client's budget, now it's called your customer's budget, market value, and your production cost. So if you are Louis Vuitton, for example, you can charge above the market value. Now, bags in the world generally have a particular price range, right? Then if you are the type that is, you're the high street luxury brand, then you charge way above the market value. Do you understand? And if you are not a well-known brand, maybe like you just started your brand some weeks ago, you want to charge between, make sure that you are within what customers would want to spend on a bag. If it is 20,000 naira that everybody spends on a bag normally, then you make sure that your product is within that range. And if you can make sure that your cost of production is also way below that, because normally when you're making products, you make sure that your production costs can be reduced but the quality being increased. So yeah, consider that as well, and then don't go below that basically in your pricing. Whew. So thank you, Michael Janda. I actually learned this from Michael Janda, so I'm giving credits, to whom the credit deserves, and I'll put the link to the podcast in the description. It's actually 1 hour long, I think 1 hour 30 minutes or so you guys can settle down and listen to it. So I wanted to do a quick motivation here. So I just wanted to say that if you actually do this pricing strategy thing, stick to it, and when you're talking with clients, be confident and stick to that price, and make sure that you are only coming down on your price if the person genuinely cannot afford it, or if you're broke. Yeah, those are like the only two instances you are permitted to reduce your price. So yeah, thank you for watching this video.